Hi, Sonia. It's so great to see you again. How have you been?
Very good, thanks. And you?
Fantastic, fantastic. I've been able to take some of what you've been telling me and at least share it with people, and
Good.
hopefully they've been watching the videos as well. And those that I can't speak to directly are at least hopefully getting some answers to their questions. But
I
as
hope so.
usual, I wouldn't be here if I didn't have another question.
More questions.
More questions indeed. And so this time it's a case of time.
Time.
Yes.
That
So,
precious commodity.
yes, you can never get it back. A lot of parents.
And people feel they can never get enough.
This is
They do
also
not
true.
have enough.
This is true. A lot of parents are now worried, not now worried, a lot of parents, one of their concerns is if they are already sitting at home and they are being a homemaker, be it cooking, baking, cleaning, whatever the case might be, that by adding a homeschool or home education side to that, that now they're going to feel they don't have the time to either maintain the home and do all those things like they used to or that they're accustomed to, and that their child is going to suffer because they can't give them the time needed, or they're going to give the time needed to the child and the home now suffers. Maybe it falls into neglect, disrepair, whatever the case might be. So how does a parent or parents who choose to home educate, how do they manage their time better?
I suppose another way of putting that question is how do they stop feeling afraid that they're going to have enough time or not have enough time or something's going to be neglected? Because you might find as well the people who are asking that question have very packed lives. Maybe it's not just their household management, but maybe it's other commitments that they have. So now they're possibly thinking, but what about? And their list is perhaps a bit long. And as you say, they're wondering how do they fit home education into that picture. So I would like, first of all, this, as you say now, people are worried about this now. Well, they are concerned about this now, and they have been for some time, and they probably will be in the future. So this is a very good topic. For me, I would like to start, I like to share from personal testimony.
Yes.
So I'd like to start with saying something that I've said repeatedly, and that is, how do children spell love? They spell it Time. So when we're loving our children, we're giving them time. And so it's very imperative that if something's going to suffer as a result of us not having time, it mustn't be the children. So if we don't get to hang the washing that day, and we miss the perfect blue sky, sunshiny day, and so now the next day it's pouring with rain, well, we can make a plan. We can hang the washing up in the scullery or in the kitchen overnight, and it can air dry. We can make a plan.
Yes.
But the concern that the parents have is trying to fit it all in. I did a video a long time ago, it's still on the Oikos website, it says how to fit it all in, or fitting it all in, or fitting it all together or something, because this concern has been there from a long time ago, and as I say, I anticipate it to continue to be there as long as people continue to crowd their lives and pack them full the way they are. And with the world being what it is, and technology being what it is, and time consumed by external things such as technology or demands of society, parents are suddenly finding themselves struggling with not having enough time where God needs them to have time, as in for their families and for their children. So what I would suggest to somebody that is saying, how am I going to find the time? I would suggest to start by trimming and going, okay, what don't I need to have on my already packed full schedule of life? And as it is, I feel like I'm hardly coping. How am I possibly going to add this element of homeschooling, which in their mind might think I've got to teach lessons and I've got to understand the curriculum, and maybe they don't even fully realize that there's a lot of parental help, there's parent books, there's a lot of self-study that goes on. So it's not uncommon in a home educating environment whereby mom can spend 10 minutes with the children watching Steve Demi on a video and enjoying the video and learning some things herself, and then leaving the child to do their worksheet. Mom doesn't have to sit down and practice doing sums, but the child does. So now the child will be sitting doing the sums, maybe all of the children around the dining room table or kitchen table or wherever they're doing their learning. And mom will go and get the lunch started or go put that load of washing on, or whatever it might be. So, as I said, this picture isn't uncommon in a lot of home educating environments of setting the children to task with something, a learning task, and then mother going and doing something as with regard to the management of the home. So it's not uncommon. However, families that are trying to do school at home, whereby mom feels she needs to be there for this child for half an hour for this lesson and that child for half an hour for that lesson, and before she knows it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and all she's done is go from child to child to child, especially if she's got a lot of children, and she just doesn't get to anything else. In that instance, I would suggest she restructures the way she's doing it. It's so that she can have more time. I mean, I know families that have got 7, 8, 9 children, and they don't structure their home education in that way. Lesson with this child, this child, this child. They put them around the fireplace or the coffee table or the kitchen table, and right now we're doing Bible study. Everybody get out your books. Everybody's going to be doing it at a different level of what they are actually doing in their own personal workbook. So I'm just thinking of this one mom. She's such an example of managing her time, in the fact that she says she doesn't have a problem with her household management because she's got 7 helpers. And she hasn't washed dishes for years because they're on like this roster of washing dishes, so, or loading the dishwasher, whatever it might be. So I think that parents don't need to be afraid that they're going to be able to manage it, because they're going to have to feel their way in it and find a way to make it work for their family. But so many thousands of families are managing, not just to find the time to home educate, but do other things as well, community service and household management and all those things. It sort of works together as a family.
So would it be fair to say that if there is a family out there who is really struggling with the time management issue, that perhaps a good place to start would be to say, okay, because the focus is the home education, let's put that as the beginning, and then see what fits around it. And like you say, see what needs to be trimmed. Maybe instead of doing this activity every day, maybe we do it maybe once or twice a week or every second week or whatever, if it's something that you need to travel for outside the home, whatever the case might be. So that is perhaps a good starting point or reference point for those who are really sitting there and are completely flustered and have no idea how to even start this process.
It's a very real feeling for a lot of people. They do feel overwhelmed by the concept of, I'm barely coping as it is, and the children are in school all morning, and I run around getting everything done, and I pay the bills, go and pay electricity bill or whatever, and they're supporting the household in this way, and they think, how am I going to do that? And home educate. Well, as I say, they need to get over the fear of it, for starters, because of knowing that so many thousands others are. And as you're saying, it's the case of how do you structure your time. So you need to pay bills once a month or every second week. You take the children with you. And on the way there, you say, right, today we're going to pay the bills for running the household. We're going to have to stop at the post office, and we're going to have to stop at the electricity department, whatever it is. And the mom takes the children with her, and they do things in the car as they're going. When she gets the oldest one to read aloud the next chapter of the book they're reading. It just, I could go on and on with all the ideas and examples of what they can do to be able to help them overcome the fact that it is okay. There is time to do it. They're not going to be short of time. But I would suggest that the first thing, an absolute practical step, would be to trim. Because if a person's feeling overwhelmed as it is, they need to look at that carefully and go, what can I actually just put on the shelf? They don't have to think they've cut it off and it's over. Maybe they do need to do that. But if they're afraid to do that, they can just park it on the shelf for a while and with a view to, well, we'll get back to that, like you were saying, activities. Let's not do it every day of the week. Let's do it twice a week, whatever that activity was, and then they can revisit that later. But you know what actually happens? Parents do this. They decide, okay, we can't do everything, so let's just put these things aside. We'll come back to that. We'll look at that next year or in 3 months from now. They found they don't very often bring those things back in because they find value in not having them. So they start to experience the value of simplicity. And then if they're tempted to go, well, let's bring the swimming back. And the children really love going swimming every day. And it's summer and it's hot and we don't have our own pool. And let's go back to the swimming every day. It doesn't take long for them to go, this is why I wasn't doing this, because it's just exhausting, in and out and in and out. And so then they go, well, do we need it every day? Let's rather go back to twice a week or something like that. I'm just using that as an example. But eventually people find a way that works for their individual family. So although parents at the get-go might begin with the overwhelming feeling of, how am I going to possibly do it? I would again suggest that they look at the network of support that's around them and see, look, how is it possible that all these other people are managing this? Or maybe they're actually seeing examples of people not managing. Maybe they're actually getting examples of home educators that are finished. They've been trying to do too much. And there is danger of that. Home educators have this sense of feeling like they need to prove something, maybe that what they're doing is enough. So then they try to do too much, and then that's not a good example anymore. So the example of simplicity, like the lady I was talking to you about with the 7 children, she's so relaxed. She's such a beautiful example because her family just work. It's such a beautiful picture, and she's not trying to achieve so much all the time. She's not even trying to get her children to achieve at a certain level, and each one of their levels of learning maths and language. She said, well, we're moving along the program. It's taking the time it needs to take, and we're doing the best we can. Like we were talking earlier, as long as you're doing your best, God smiles upon that. And she, if I may say, just absolutely loves the Oikos lifestyle because she's only ever used the Oikos lifestyle. And she says it's so liberating to her because she doesn't have the pressure of, we've got to finish this by this time so that we can get these tests done so that we can move on to the next. She doesn't have that pressure. She knows, as a responsible parent, that she must make time to see to it that her children are progressing. And they're going to progress at different rates. And she's fairly experienced in that now, that she's got 7 individuals at different ages that she's needing to monitor their progression. And if she sees one falling behind because of maybe being a little bit lazy, I don't like to use that word, but maybe they're not applying themselves as they could be or should be, then she needs to attend to that a little bit. And another one might be racing ahead, and she maybe needs to pull in the reins a little bit. And because she's been an attentive mother, that's what she's doing. That's what she sees her job as, rather than, I don't have time to do all of this book work or the school work. So she is one of those that speaks very highly of the Oikos lifestyle because of the peace that it's brought her, and the fact that it's also brought her the time. That's how she sees it. She's got time to actually have time with her children and to be a family without all the stresses of the demands of even the curriculum. Let me tell you, there's some homeschoolers out there that are using very demanding curriculum. And if that's the example that they've been to somebody else, and somebody else is looking at that and going, oh, I don't think I can do that. Well, that's why that person is afraid of the time aspect. But you mustn't just look at that one example. That's what I would encourage parents. Don't look at that example of where it looks like somebody's not coping. Look at examples where people are managing their time and structuring their time and have had the courage to trim and to move some of those things off the schedule that don't need to be there. I say to them, why don't they check with Garden? Ask him, is this important to you? Do I need to be doing this? Do the children need to go swimming every day of the week, or will 2 days of the week be sufficient to make them water safe? You know what I'm saying?
Now, you mentioned dealing with children who are perhaps maybe rushing ahead with curriculum, or those who are kind of struggling to maintain a decent pace, shall we say. What is the best way to handle when you have, say, an older child? Because there could be some parents out there say, you know, the time management thing would work perfectly if all my kids were teenagers, or if all my kids were of a certain younger age, but I've got teenagers and I've got a 7-year-old or something in
Maybe
those
even a
brackets.
toddler.
So yes, so they've got this
throw that in
huge
there.
gap between some of the children. And now they're wondering, the young ones demand so much of my time that I feel that in order to placate their needs, I'm going to be neglecting the older child. Or maybe vice versa. Maybe you've got an older child who is really demanding of time for whatever reason, and it kind of takes your attention away from the younger siblings. How does one cope with or deal with a child who is really time intensive?
I think I might answer this question in a bit of an opposite way to what perhaps people are expecting. Because of the fact that little children tend to be very demanding on a parent's time, the older children in the family are the ones that don't get the time. And I see it in the opposite way around, that the older the child, the eldest child would need more attention from the parent. Because if you think about it, a 2-year-old needs to be comfortable and fed and happy and playing and satisfied and all that. You don't need to have a deep conversation with a 2-year-old about matters of life. But your 15-year-old is working through some things that need discussion. And who's he going to talk to them about, or who's she going to talk to them about? Is there going to be too much unmonitored time on Google, on the network, on internet, where advice from wherever is coming to them? Or is the parent going to have time to have a cup of coffee and sit and spend time with that young adult? So the way I see the structuring and the management of that is the young adult is the one that needs more of a parent's time, even if it means that the young adult helps during the day with the little ones, teaches the little one a maths lesson, or sits and plays blocks, or the older child helping mom with the younger one while she attends to the middle child's learning struggle. And so that's now time intensive again. And so she can do that without compromising the lack of time she's going to give to the older child, because now the older child is just helping her with household and children, and the older child's not getting that parental input on the level that they perhaps needed, or the time that they perhaps would be best for them. And then that's where dad really comes in and plays a role there. Or if it's a single parent, a grandparent can come in at that point, or an uncle, or a pastor, or something, whereby parents, I believe, need to be intentional about making time for those young adults. And if it's not the mother, then make time for when the moment dad comes home, young adult has time with father. That is how I would think would be a good way to balance this need of the variety of different needs. I've got a sick child, I've got a young adult, like you were referencing to earlier. How to balance all of that can appear to be quite tricky and almost undoable to people. They go, well, I don't know how I'm going to do that. But it really is doable. And as I say, I'm going to go back to the example of this beautiful mom that I keep thinking about while we're talking, and how come she's managed to do that. And her eldest is now married, and if you speak to them and the family, you will pick up very quickly that this is a very content family. They're not dealing with a lot of difficulties. And so you ask them, wow, what have you done to make this picture look so beautiful? And it's this what I'm talking about, as well as the structuring of time and putting your attention where it's really required, and not getting swallowed up in the demands of where there shouldn't be demands, possibly. Because you can have, let's say, a 4-year-old, for example, that has just been very insistent on wanting to get mom's attention. Well, then the 4-year-old needs some training to say, well, I'm now, get the child settled with something, or call in some help the older child to take care of the 4-year-old while you're taking care of the special needs child, for example. Mark, I'm also thinking as I'm talking about some practical tips, as in what I used to do, because there was stages in our life where we had a number of children because we had foster children staying with us. And so I understand the struggle of that can be where you can be pulled in all directions and you feel like everything's only getting a little bit of your time and nothing's getting enough. That's how it can start feeling. So what I did is I came up with some practical ideas with the help of talking to my mother about it and going to the Lord and please help me. And I came up with one thing whereby I had baskets of different kinds of activities. One basket had colouring in books and crayons and cokies and all that. And another basket would have, when I say basket, it was like plastic bins with lids. And each one was a different kind of activity. And I put them away. And so the moment I started having one particular young child that was not being reasonable that day, for whatever reason, maybe they were a bit off, maybe they were not feeling 100%, but be whatever the reason, I was having a difficulty with trying to get to the other needs of the day because one particular individual was requiring a lot of my attention. I would pull out one of the boxes, one of the crates, and just give that to that child like it was a surprise. But when the moment was over of intensity, I put it away. That was the secret. You see, you don't just leave it out now and let them come to it whenever they want to. I'd put it away because it was specifically for that purpose of giving me some help in the moment. I put it away, and that would be the next time I'd bring out a different one, a variety. So there was this rotation. By the time I came back to the first one, it was new again to the child, where they might even ask if I brought out some new blocks or some educational toy. They might ask for the colouring. And I said, well, no, we're not doing that now. This is what this is for now. That's for another time. So, you have to be careful not to fall into the demands of the child without, in other words, you're listening to the little lamb bleating instead of listening to the wisdom and the guidance of the shepherd. And that way, you're going to be helping your child more effectively if you listen to the voice of the shepherd than if you listen to the little bleating lamb. So
I suppose I'm not disregarding the need for individual attention, but earlier on in what you said, I kind of got the feeling that you turn it, instead of, it's their time, my time, you make it family time.
Correct. It's a group effort.
You utilize the giftings and the talents and the abilities of everyone in the family to say, maybe me as a parent right now, I really need to start supper, so won't you just play a 5-minute card game with your brother or sister, just to give you that breathing space or that break from the norm, rather than saying, I need to do this and I need to do that, and so
starting to feel torn. I don't know where to go and what to do.
And you become flustered. And I know myself, I suffer from what we like to call analysis paralysis. And I will sit down and say, okay, I need to do this or this or this. And I will look at it and I'll be like, okay, but if I do this, then there's no time for that. If I do that, there's no time. And eventually I end up doing neither of the things.
You end up doing nothing.
I end up doing nothing because all three are going to suffer. So let's just not do anything. And at the end of the day, I still suffer, kind of thing. So like you say, be intentional, make a decision, and if it didn't work out, maybe learn from it and say, okay, I'll try it differently next time.
That's the thing, it's a work in progress. And you talk about saying to the one child, you play this game while I need to go and make dinner for all of you. You can even take it further than that. You can take one of the children with you and be training them in culinary skills. While you're training them, the day is going to come, the reward will come, whereby that person that you've been training, that child, is now going to go and prepare dinner for the family while you get to something else, such as one of the other children have grown a bit older now and needs a little bit more of your attention. And this one is old enough to not need to be quite as intensely needing your time, because that child is now capable to go in the kitchen. There's not the danger aspect of pouring hot water on themselves because they're taller and older and trained and equipped. And you've done that as the parent. You equip that person in the family to contribute in this way. Like you were saying, I love that it's everybody is pulling together and applying all their special abilities and helping one another out. And when you do that, you're a team now. And suddenly your load as the parent, thinking that you've got to have time for everything yourself, is spread amongst the members of your family. And so now it's lightened. So his burden is not heavy, as he says,
Yes.
He doesn't expect us to walk around with a heavy burden. If we're feeling burdened and heavy laden, well, then we need to do something about that and go, well, I'm not doing something right if I'm feeling burdened, because I'm not supposed to walk feeling burdened. This is supposed to be a joy, and we can have strength in it. And the joy gives us strength, and we're not going to have much joy if we are just feeling overwhelmed by all the intensity and this being feeling like you've been torn apart. It doesn't need to be like that. It really, really doesn't need to be like. I do understand that people feel like that, and it looks like that, and it seems like that, and maybe it's even for real like that. It's their reality. Well, then let's just hope that chatting about it today has brought some few little practical tips maybe
Yes.
on how people can actually structure their time differently, in the hopes that it will bring some ease to them.
Yes, so I think definitely trimming down is a very good place to start in seeing what is not necessary. And then I think it's also okay to say, you know what, it's all right to stop and collect yourself and say, okay, let's reassess. Because again, I think we very quickly get sucked into things, and then our attention keeps shifting, that we don't actually see where our energy is better directed and better spent. So
Absolutely.
cut out the unnecessary things, reassess the structure, and stop. Sometimes stop.
I wanted to say that again, as well as stop. Just stop. Because, I mean, those of you who are watching, I would like to just encourage you, if you've got this far on the video, I would suggest you just stop. Just stop and take a breath and take it easy. Have some tea. It's very important. Because I don't know if you agree, Mark, but people who do stop, I don't know if you've had this experience, that when you make this decision that, okay, I'm just going to now just stop, and I'm just going to remove all this clutter from me and all this demand, and I'm just going to take a breath. I'm just going to relax for a bit. You get to a place of peace.
Yes.
And you can think clearly again.
And sometimes
So
you
it's a good
sit there and you
place
go
to
like,
get
why was I even doing that?
Yes, and why was
like,
I
what's
getting
the
so
point?
stressed about this? Yeah.
Exactly.
So we suggest you stop. You got a nice shirt on today for that.
Yes.
The stop sign.
The stop sign. Just slow down,
Warning.
stop,
Warning. Stop.
reassess, cut back what is unnecessary, reestablish what your main focus is as well. I think that
Yes,
is the
that'll
key,
help.
because as soon as you lose focus, you're going to be spending time on trivial things that really don't matter. So find your focus, be diligent in pursuing that, and intentional about what you're doing. And I think you'll find that the time all of a sudden is just there. And you might be finding you have more time than you thought.
They might need to be a bit courageous as well, because before we go, I'm remembering this story of this lady who phoned me in an absolute panic. I mean, she was very, very stressed. And while she was talking, I wanted to say to her, shh, just quiet down. That's what I was feeling like. So I thought I better just start praying for her. And I said to her, I'm now praying for her while she's just really panicked. And when she gave me a gap, which I know is not easy to get a gap. But anyway, when I said to her, have you got a list of all these things? She said, yes, I have. I said, burn it. Throw it away. Just burn it. She said, oh, I can't do it. I said, just burn it. Just do it. I'm not going to put the phone down until you burnt your list. And I was there. So she did. She actually took me really seriously. And she thought, well, okay, are you serious? Must I burn my list? And I said, yes, burn it. And so she did. And you know what happened? Is she felt this like freedom. Like, oh, the burden was just gone.
Yes.
And I said, now you've got a blank page. Now only go and get a blank page with nothing on it. Now only put on that list. That is what God is telling you to put. Ask Him, can I put this on the list? Wait. See if you get peace about that. Make sure, check it's important with Him. And then you can put it on. If it says, at the top of your list, it says pray. I'm sure that's going to be okay with Him if you put there that you need to make time to pray.
Yes.
And the next thing is you can put time in the Word with the children. I think that'll also be okay with Him. You can put those two things on your list. But all these other things that she had added and added and added and added until she was in a state of complete panic. So that's what I would like to leave them with, this little story. I suddenly remembered this mom, just like I'm remembering the beautiful mom with all her children. I'm remembering this other mom now who I asked her to burn her list. So if you parents out there have got a list that is overwhelming you, why don't you try that? Why don't you just shed it
Start again.
and start again. Yeah. But for now, thanks for stopping by and
Yes.
watching and being with us while we chatted about this matter of love, TIME.
Yes.
And we hope to see you again soon.
Awesome.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.